Hello everyone, it's Andrea and welcome to this edition of Talks in the Car. Today I want to talk to you about staying the course. And we've talked about this a couple of times, but I want to put a different spin on it and give you something a little bit different to think about. So I want you to take that one thing, put it in your mind, that one thing that you are really struggling with or working on in your life. Now, we all have several things that we may be working on, but I want you to think of that one thing that you really need to get a handle on. It may be your weight. It may be there are things that you really like, but you need to stay away from them. You may need to stay away from sugar. You may need to stay away from things that are high in salt. Things that will be a detriment to your body. Maybe you're working on your anger management and how to process when things upset you. Maybe it's that friendship, that relationship that you used to be in. Maybe that friend that was in your life some time ago is not someone that you need to hang out with. Maybe they are negative. Maybe they are toxic. Maybe there's that relationship, someone that you used to care deeply for, but for whatever the reason is, that's not the person that God wants for you. That's not the person that needs to be in your life, and you need to stay away from that person. When we have those things in our lives, we work hard to stay the course. We work hard to stay away from those substances. We work hard not to have contact with those people. But sometimes, as time goes forward, we find ourselves inching our way back. We find ourselves in a place where we thought we weren't going to have that soda, and we only took a little sip. Now we're having that Coke, that Pepsi, that soda every day. We're putting extra salt on our food. We're not exercising like we're supposed to. We said, okay, we're just going to go to the movies or out to dinner with that person just one time. It should be fine. It won't be a problem. And then we find ourselves roped back into a relationship that took us a long time to step away from. Ask yourself this. Is the cost, is the consequence of going back to what you are working to get away from worth it? Is it worth it to have to peel yourself back from that person when you know good and well it's going to be hard if you go back? Is it worth it having to stay away from that soda, knowing good and well that you really love Coke, you really love Pepsi, and knowing good and well that if you take a sip, it's going to make you go back into that habit of having 1, 2, 3, 4 Pepsis a day? I want to share an experience that happened with you that really drove this concept home for me. So back in April, I was taking my son to work, and I was on a particular strip of road, and it was about 5:30 in the morning. I'm driving down this road, and it's pretty quiet. I saw an officer parked kind of off to the side. So as I'm going towards my son's job, I knew that the officer was there. But on my way back from dropping him off, I kind of wasn't paying as much of attention as I should have. And so while I was driving, I was kind of thinking about what I had to do once I got to work. I knew that there were some things happening. I knew that there were some teachers out, and I have a routine. So I was just kind of thinking about that. And as I'm driving up this street, next thing I know, I see the lights behind me. And I'm like, oh goodness, what's happening? And honestly, at first, I didn't think that they were coming for me. So I pulled to the side to let the officer go by me, only to see them get back behind me. So I pull over. The officer says, ma'am, do you know why I'm stopping you? And honestly, I really didn't, because I didn't think that I was going fast at all, quite honestly. And they said, you were going 48 miles in a 25-mile zone. I was like, oh my goodness. And I honestly really just did not feel that I was going that fast. And again, I really wasn't focusing on the speed I was going, on. I was really focusing on what I need to do once I get to work in the routine that I needed to do. So the officer went on to explain that because it was 20 miles over the posted speed limit, that now we weren't talking about a simple ticket where I could just go online and pay it. We were talking about a reckless driving charge. And my whole heart, my whole being went into a different level, because that is nothing that I've ever experienced before. It's actually considered a crime in essence. And I'm sitting here literally wanting to cry. The officer got a little bit officery with me and said, I could take you to jail right now. And now my anxiety, and I normally don't have a lot of anxiety like that, but now I'm on a different level and I'm scared, and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? What am I gonna do? So I get to work and I'm just flustered. Don't know what this process looks like. So spoken to some of my coworkers and looking things up online and kind of finding out, what does this reckless driving charge look like. So the following week, I'm doing court, and I go in there with the intention of just saying, telling, obviously being honest, officer, judge, Your Honor, I was not paying as close attention as I should have. I apologize. What can we do? Because at that point, what can you do? You just have to be as humble as you can. And so when I got in there, they weren't ready to hear my case. It was just a matter of me deciding what I was going to do. If I was going to need a lawyer, if I was going to need a public defender, if I was going to defend myself. And as it's going on, I'm realizing just the seriousness of the matter. Just, what I'm going to have to do. So originally I said, what, I'm going to defend myself. It should be that simple. I'll be able to go in there, tell the judge what I need to do, what has happened, give my apologies, and hopefully, it'll work out in my favor. And so when I got back to my job after being in court, they said, my coworkers were like, you know what, Andre, you may need a lawyer. I talked to another friend of mine that was like, you know what, you may need a lawyer. Never have had a lawyer before. I know people, and it seems sometimes online that people's like, I'm just going to call my lawyer. I don't have a lawyer on retainer. I've never had a reason to have a lawyer. There were things that have happened in the past that I needed notarized or documented by an attorney, and there was one who was willing to do that for me, but I've never had to be a defendant. Okay, so now I have to hunt around for a lawyer, and I'm going somewhere with this. Hunt around for a lawyer. So find a lawyer, and in all transparency, this lawyer is going to cost me a good $1,100. Okay, I've shopped around. I've seen what the prices were versus what they're offering. Okay, I retained the lawyer. Thankfully, I'm able to pay it off in installments. Pay the lawyer. The lawyer says, here's what you need to do. You need to take a driver improvement class online. Okay, I go ahead, I look at that, I pay for that. It's an 8-hour class. I do the 8 hours online, over a period of time, get that done. Ms. Jenkins, you need to have your speedometer calibrated. Okay, no problem. I call around, see what that's about. I pay for that. The gentleman comes out, gives me the reading, put that in the file. Ms. Jenkins, you may want to do some public service. I didn't go ahead and do that because he's like, look, you may not want to do that. You can if you want to, just to kind of make your case look a little bit better. I opted not to do any public service because I'm always doing different things. So if I needed to, I had something I could pull on. I reached out to the DMV. I paid for my driving record for the last 15 years. Thankfully, I have a 5+ rating. Pulled my snapshot from my insurance to see what I've been driving and how I've been driving over the time that I've had this insurance. 5+ rating. So I have all these documents ready, send them to the lawyer. He has something that he's able to show the judge when I have my court date. So this past Tuesday, I go to court, and my lawyer is just sharing, my information, and the judge already had my driving record, and the judge says, okay, this is not something that happens on a regular. I've had no accidents at all. I don't have any speeding tickets over the last 15 years. My record is good. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop this down to a simple speeding ticket. The ticket, $54. I could have broke out into a clear Holy Ghost shout right then and there. However, maintained myself, thanked my lawyer, shook his hand. I'm very appreciative. But as I began to think about everything, I said, okay, a $54 ticket, but the lawyer cost me over $1,000. The calibration of my speedometer cost me $50. It cost me $40 to get my driving record. It cost me $300 and something in court fees to get it done, to pay for. And all of this money that I put out, the 8 hours for the class that I had to do, all of this time, all of this money for what? A simple situation that had I been focused, had I been paying attention, I would not have gotten into. So I said all of that to say, sometimes the cost for the things that we like, that we know we shouldn't do, is way more expensive than the initial offense. You putting that Coke down, you putting that cigarette down, you not taking that substance is worth staying on course, because when you go back, it's harder to put it down. It's harder to not light that cigarette. It's harder not to take that substance. You fighting with yourself and staying prayed up in order to stay away from that relationship that you know you shouldn't be in, to stay away from those ex-friends and people that you used to hang with, is far better than the cost that it would be for you to go back into that relationship, for you to go hang out again with those friends, because it's harder to stay away, and you don't know what will happen once you get back in. We all know that when we have been in relationships with people that we love and that we've given our heart to, and we've had to walk away, and how long the healing process took, how long it took us for us to be okay with not being with that person. We all know, we've all experienced those moments. But to go back to that and then to try to escape from that again is so much harder. It does so much more damage to our heart, to our mind, to our spirit. Is the cost worth it? And so as I conclude on today, I want you just to really, really think about those things that you are trying to stay focused on. You're trying to stay away from. You're trying to do better. I want you to think about it and to put in your mind, if I go back, if I do it again, if I pick it up again, if I just have a little taste, if I just spend a little time, is it worth being drawn in again so that the cost on your mind, the cost on your spirit is so high, because now you got to try to dig yourself out again. I think about that a lot. There was someone years ago who really had my heart, and it was hard stepping away. It was hard staying away. And I remember going back to that situation a couple of times, and every time I went back, knowing good and well, Andrea, you don't need to be in this situation. And when I would try to step out, and when I would try to go away and to try to recalibrate and get myself back together, it was so much harder. Why? Because my heart was being tugged in places where it needed not to go. My head, my spirit was going to places that I knew I didn't need to be. That stronghold was holding on to me so viciously, because I knew that is not where God wanted me to be. And guess what? Satan knows where you're not supposed to be either. He knows what you're not supposed to do, whether it be on a spiritual level, whether it has to do with relationships, whether or not it has to do with substances, your diet, your weight, whatever it is that you're working on. The devil knows those things, and temptation is real. Temptation is real. And once you are tempted, and once you see yourself falling back into those places that you used to be, that grip, that vice on your mind, that grip, that vice on your heart gets all the more stronger. And you can't walk away as easily as you did before. You can't say no as easily as you did before. And before, it was hard. Before, you felt it was impossible. Before, you had to fight to stay out of that situation, to stay away from that person. But going back makes it all the harder. So I encourage you, my friends, do not allow yourself to fall back into those hard places. Do not allow yourself to have to pay the price for going back. The cost is too high. The cost is too weighty. You cannot afford to give up your spiritual funds in order to pull yourself out of situations that you were already delivered from. Don't give away your spiritual funds to situations that God has already helped you escape from, that God has already delivered you from. Don't go back. It is not worth it. My $54 ticket in reality cost me over $1,500. A $54 ticket, think about this, cost me pretty much $1,500, because all of the things that were required of me in order to get out of the situation. Don't fall back. Stay the course. Stay focused. Stay diligent. Keep your eyes focused on where you want to go, and don't allow yourself to go back and find yourself in a spiritual deficit. You have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. I hope this blessed you. I hope my experience blessed you. and will give you some food for thought. Again, you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we will see you next time on Talks in the Car.